located in the US or in Canada?
I'm located in Canada.
So I'm just wondering if we need somebody who is very familiar with the 501c3 incorporation that we have to do here in the US.
Yeah,
because I know it's very complicated and I don't understand anything about it. So
yeah, and when you get to that level of detail, you probably will need somebody. So what I'm going to provide you is a little higher level. It's going to, you know, I'm coming from the premise that a group of people that get together and want to form a chapter may not know anything about even what a corporation is or why they should bother with it. So I want to at least answer those questions and give them a checklist of things that they have to address when they're doing that. In terms of actually doing it, because incorporation is a state-by-state thing in the US, there are no federal corporations as such. You kind of need to you know, adhere to the laws of the jurisdiction of the state where you're going to incorporate. In terms of that sort of classification that you mentioned, that's more of a tax code issue. It's, you know, to stay compliant with the not-for-profit status. You know, so that's more of a, you know, a U.S. tax issue more than anything. And of course, to not run afoul, then you do have to set it up a certain way, obviously.
right, yeah. Okay,
so,
yeah, so yeah, I understand. So you'd just be providing kind of background information, and then you would say, right, well, if you needed to get this status, you would have to kind of look for an expert, you know, in your state to help you with that.
In your state, that's right, because,
okay.
you know, although I've been exposed, you know, through my practice, I've actually been exposed to quite a few U.S. corporations for various reasons. And I can tell you that the way things are done can vary quite considerably from state to state. So to try and have sort of a single antidote, it's just not feasible to do that.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
But in terms of the sort of topic and how to deal with it, are people in general agreement that that's a good way to approach it initially?
We have
yes.
one comment in the chat, Chris, that says yes. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh, that's from me, Susanna.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll move on. The other thing then that you need to know is, you know, sort of your beginning resolutions for, you know, all the mundane things like setting up bank accounts and so on. Then there's the whole other sort of practical governance side, which is, okay, so this entity will presumably have a board. You know, what is the board's function, and you know, what responsibilities does it have? What should it be doing? What are some of the types of subcommittees that it may want to form to deal with certain recurring obligations, like, for example, finance or nominations and so on? How do you run meetings? How do you run a board meeting? How do you run an annual meeting? How do you make sure that you comply with the requirements to have an annual meeting? So all of those things that sort of need to happen regularly, and to provide a structure and a framework for the organization. In terms of reference for committees, how do you determine those? What are typical kinds of terms of reference? And here we could certainly provide some templates based on our experience, because I've been heavily involved in developing these types of things for the Canadian chapter. In the Canadian chapter, we've gone about a very you know, systemic way of developing this stuff, largely because that's the approach that I took when I got involved. So as a result of that, I've given some thought to some of these tools in terms of reference and what committees might look like and so on. Now, of course, there'll be local preferences and variations, and I'm not suggesting that what we did has to be copied exactly, but it kind of gives you, in a general sense, a starting point for the discussion, and it gets people asking the right questions at least. So, so that's kind of, that's the way I view the strength of having that discussion. Oftentimes people don't even know how to run meetings, how to record minutes, and so on. And so all of these things are skills that need to be imparted to the people who look after the chapter. So does that make sense? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. And then the other things then, of course, that a chapter is concerned about is how do you create interest? How do you make contributions? How do you, what are possible avenues to get funding? And so on. So here again, we have, you know, I've seen both within the Canadian chapter and through other activities in which I've been engaged, you know, I've seen how funds can be raised, how activities can be organized, and so on. So, so those are the kinds of things that a new chapter might be interested in. Also, how to be careful not to get co-opted by specific interests, because that's a big hazard for a new chapter that's trying to get funded, is how do you do that in a sort of an ethical way that doesn't compromise the messaging or the work that the chapter wants to do. And then how do you, and then I guess working with Mark, Mark and I guess should discuss how chapters can help each other and reinforce each other's good, you know, best practices.
Exactly.
And because I think what we'd like to see come out of this is, or at least what I'm proposing might be useful is, you know, what we're trying to do is plant a seed. That seed will hopefully become a tree with many branches. Each one of those branches will hopefully be healthy but be very distinct, and we can share each other's experiences. So maybe creating a forum or a mechanism to share best practices so that this kind of toolkit or whatever we end up calling it can be a bit of a living tree and can grow and develop and evolve. So those are some of the things that, you know, that I've been thinking about in terms of developing this. I think there are sort of two aspects to how to present this material or provide it. And Mark and I discussed that as well. Part of it, I think, is we need probably for those who want to try and acquire this knowledge quickly, you know, who are within existing chapters, I think an initial workshop will be very useful to get everybody at least having the dialogue on the same level and asking the questions and sharing information at a similar level. And then in addition to that, there will be some specific documents, whether they be templates or whether they be, you know, suggested clauses or approaches. In some cases, it'll be more approaches to things where there are legal differences in different jurisdictions, and I can't provide a single bullet for everything. It will be more of a suggested checklist of things that one should cover as you go forward. So I see it as kind of a twofold activity, one developing some materials and the other doing an initial presentation and maybe periodically, you know, every year or two or whatever, doing updates to that presentation as we get nuclei of new chapters forming. We can do the initial presentation for them, you know, all over again, and so on.
Excellent.
All right. So does that sound good?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Okay, so we'll we'll go away and I'll work with Mark and whoever others of you have volunteered for this activity to be sort of a sounding board and to give back feedback and to add your thoughts to that. I think it becomes much more valuable when we have input from a diverse group of people. I think those are the best products that come out of that sort of brainstorming. So I look forward to working with those of you who are interested in this activity, and I'll ask Mark obviously to coordinate those sorts of interactions as we move forward.
Very good, Chris. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any other question that anybody has, or anything I've left out that you're dying to have added on to this activity?
Yeah, this is Susanna. I'm just wondering, maybe it's not in the scope of this project, but it would be good to have some kind of documentation about transition, because sometimes people come into a chapter that's already established, and there's no documentation, there's no information, there's bank accounts owned by people that you can't get hold of and things like that. So that might be something that we could discuss somewhere down the line.
When you say transition, you mean for existing chapters to sort of come up to speed in their governance? Is that
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're somebody new coming into a chapter,
right.
And the handover isn't very complete, then you face problems. So maybe that's something we can talk about as well. Documentation about how to hand over, or to how to just have documentation so that somebody else can come in and take over.
And so
right.
I think you were talking about succession planning at one point in time as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so succession planning is definitely part of this. The other thing I'm going to suggest, thanks for reminding me, is, also how to go about if a chapter wants to do a bit of strategic planning, that sort of thing, how they might go about doing that sort of thing. So you're right, succession planning is important. Because people, whatever means are used, whether it's elections or otherwise, to elect or appoint people over time, there will be some turnover, and so sort of record retention and good documentation practices are important. So I will address a bit of that. I think that's a good topic, is to address a bit of documentation practices and records retention. And with that, of course, also goes the whole issue of privacy, right?
Right.
And something we need to be keenly aware of protecting as we create and store records.
Excellent. If there are no more questions, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, anything else? Those were good observations. Anyone have anything else to add? All right. If not, I shall take my.
If my mic's working, I'll just talk about the thing that we're just dealing with now in New York, which is working on taking on a paid executive director, i.e. Shuli, and so the relationship of of having paid staff and their relationship, how to manage that in terms of taxes, payroll taxes, relationship to the board. There's a whole kettle of fish that's opening up.
Yeah, so I can talk about this in general, both legal and HR terms, because I'm familiar with both. Of course, again, the specifics of how you implement that will depend, one, on the jurisdiction, and two, also on certain preferences that the organization may have. So, for example, there are lots of services out there that will you know, do your payroll for you, do your tax withholding, do all of that for you. And they're not necessarily all that expensive. And so for a small organization that doesn't have its own HR administration or accounting resources, that would be useful. And that's the other thing I will cover a little bit, is the whole notion of financial reporting, because I think that is important. If an organization, in order to be accountable to its members, it has to do a credible job of financial reporting. So I'll talk a little bit about the basic requirements of financial reporting as well. But yeah, HR sort of, that's a good topic. You know, many chapters won't be able to afford paid staff, and so they'll rely on volunteers for many things, or most things, or all things. But and that becomes tricky. I don't want to delve into the weeds too much, but it becomes tricky because in terms of governance, people can wear multiple hats. And what I mean by that is, if you're a board member, if you're a director, you have certain responsibilities. If you also happen to be an officer of the chapter, for example, you're the treasurer or the secretary, that entails certain responsibilities. But above and beyond that, you may choose to volunteer and help organize events, or do fundraising, or, you know, do clerical work or bookkeeping. It's important to distinguish when the same individual is doing different tasks and not to mix them up. A lot of organizational strife develops in situations, especially in volunteer organizations, where there are a handful of people that do everything, because people don't separate out the different roles that they have, and don't treat them you know, with appropriate consideration for which role they're in, what role they're engaged at the particular time they're doing something. So so that's going to be a topic that I'll get into, and it's very closely related to this issue of hiring staff, because not everyone can hire staff, and that has implications as well.
The other issue that comes up in our board occasionally is there's one director who keeps asking us when we're going to get director liability insurance.
Mm-hmm. Agreed, and I will discuss that. D&O insurance, yeah.
Great, yeah, Jolie, that's a really good point. I've brought up the concept of insurance many times because for a lot of the events that we want to do, we can't have we can't hold them in event space unless we've got liability insurance. I know that's something different to what you're talking about, but I think the concept of insurance is something that we should talk about as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because we've certainly run into that in Canada when we had an event at a sort of a major convention spot. That was certainly something that we had to produce as well. So you're totally right. The other thing we could help you with a bit is, again, a checklist of what to look for in an event contract. Again, we can't create a single template for event contracts for two reasons. One, every venue likes to use its own form. They're not going to use the form that somebody who wants to hold an event is going to produce. And two, the agreements, again, would vary somewhat by jurisdiction. But what we can talk to you about is, what are the common themes and issues that arise when you do event contracting? What should you look for? How do you weigh whether an event provider is being reasonable or unreasonable in the demands they're making, and so on.
Sounds good. 2 thumbs up from Jolly.
Okay, awesome. Anything else? I want to make sure that nothing sort of falls off. Is this recorded by any chance, Mark, our conversation
It is
here?
being recorded, yes. And for the smaller group that we've identified, Chris, I'll send around that that list that you and I had developed a few months back.
Right, right. Which I'll need to look at again because I may beef it up a little bit after this call. But yes,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. Okay, well, if I don't hear anything else in the next 30 seconds, I will sign off, and then in the weeks and couple of months to come, we'll get this all organized and get feedback from all of you and get further direction on, you know, as things are developed.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you all for the opportunity to participate today.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. That was good. That was very good. I think this will be a very helpful tool. I'm remiss. I had on the first item on the agenda was actually to greet the newly formed and finalized Illinois chapter. And I think we have at least one person from Illinois on the line. Am I correct?
I'm here. I'm Alan. I don't know if we lost Chris. I apologize. I don't know a whole lot about the ISOC. He's been a longtime member and asked me if I could assist him. He was actually an employee of mine formerly at Dish Network.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. So we have a new chapter, and that's great news. We have 2 more chapters in the works, and hopefully we'll be seeing their application soon.
Can you tell us where they are?
Probably shouldn't, but I will. Alaska and New Mexico.
Alaska. Wow, that's interesting. Is there a particular city in Alaska?
Yeah, the people who are behind the chapter are based in Fairbanks.
Nice.
Not Fairbanks, sorry, Anchorage.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is very cold there. No. And moving on from that, we also have Nancy. I think just about everybody knows who Nancy is. There was a request to talk about admin grants, budgeting, and reporting requirements, as well as small grants for chapters, small BTN grants. Nancy, did you want to speak a little bit to that, or do we want to just see if there are questions?
I don't know. Maybe I would like to hear your questions, because actually I think that most of the chapters already know how the grants work. So probably they would like, I would like to know the questions that they have.
I can go a bit. I was just a little confused at the end of last year because we applied for the grant, and then we were asked to show our receipts. Now, I thought we were applying for a grant to cover our admin expenses for this year, where we hadn't even spent the money yet. We were being asked for receipts from last year, and it's the actual sort of when we apply, when the grant applies to in terms of time is not just totally clear in my mind.
Okay, so you are referring to the admin fund.
Talking about the 3K.
Well, actually, it depends. Well, the total money that you will receive will depend on the chapter evaluation performance. So, depending on the classification that you have, is the total amount that you will receive. So, I think it is the funding, the administrative funding that you are referring. So, if it is that the case, the admin fund actually last year was the first time that we were launching the program, and we decided to do it at the end of the year. The idea of the admin fund is just to cover admin expenses. So it means, for example, if you need a lawyer, if you need an accountant, then if you need an administrative person that is helping you here, then if you need some chapter assets. So that is the things that that this funding will cover. Some of the chapters, as you said, haven't finished to use the admin fund. So Hilda was asking for the invoices just to be sure that the money was spent. So for chapters that haven't spent the money, she cannot allow you to apply for more money because you already have money in the chapter. So probably that is what you were asking, Hilda, or that is what Hilda was asking you for the invoices. I cannot hear you.
Sorry, I'm still not clear. You know, in December was the first time we heard about this. It was the first offer of money, and then, you know, it was, so we asked for money for this year, you know, thinking this will be money for the next year. So we haven't spent any money. So how can we have invoices?
Okay, so in that case, I think that what Hilda is going to tell you is not to apply for 2017 and use 2016 money for 2017.
So what we're saying is the money we applied for was at the end of last year was for last year, not for this year.
Exactly. If
So,
you applied last year,
but we couldn't spend any money because we didn't have any to spend last year because we didn't have a grant, so we didn't spend it.
So in that case, you will have to use the money for 2017.
It's a little back to front to me, you know what I mean? It's because, you know, how it works is you get money and then you budget the money. So, you know, so we're budgeting on last year's money for this year. You know, we're spending last year's money this year. We should be spending this year's money this year, not last year's money this year. It's a little back to front to me. It doesn't.
I have just a question for you. So for 2016, how did you split the budget for the admin fund?
Well, we didn't have any admin funds, so we struggled along on, you know, pinching our pennies because we didn't have any, and we didn't have a grant. You know, previously we'd had a grant, but this 2016 there was no money came in from ISOC, so we basically clamped down and didn't spend money because we didn't have any. Just, you know, we didn't have much of an admin budget. We pay for our website and things like that, but we just didn't spend money. You know, so when that money came in, we said, okay, we can budget for 2017, thinking that this was an admin budget to spend on 2017. You know, then we find that we're asked, you know, okay, for receipts from 2016 against that money, and it doesn't make sense to us. If we, you know, we're looking for money, you know, I mean, if that's the way, is like, you know, how it just, to give receipts to justify the spending that we haven't done yet doesn't work.
And for
I'd like to hear from John more on this because I'm sure he's in a similar situation down in DC.
Well, I think, I mean, we may well have put in the money in, but as far as when I saw that, I said, when you have a grant that's supposed to be for administrative expense, why don't you just have an accounting at the end of the year? I didn't understand whatsoever because we did not necessarily have, you know, receipts, whatever that means in all cases. We have a record because, you know, it's in our bank account. It has to, but whether we have an individual receipt for every expense we have, I doubt it. So it seemed to me backwards, I would have thought that, and it was what I thought when it was first announced, that it would be one that we would have to account for the funds, and then the question would be raised about getting any more funds. So I'm with Jolly. I don't understand.
Okay. The problem is that when we send when we launched the program, we said that we were going to pay just 2016 expenses. So it means that if you made some expenses during 2016 and you paid with your money, then you can use the money that you are receiving from the admin fund, and how can I say it?
Well, yeah, so I think David did put in for it and did have made an accounting for the expenses. But the question is, do we then have to wait to the end of this year to be able to show that we needed to use 3,000 when we know very easily that we will have at least that expenses with all the things that are going on?
Well, this is okay. What I'm going to do is that I will ask Hilda to have a meeting with you, because she's like the owner of the program, so that she can explain you how you can solve the issue that you haven't spent the money. Because
That's great. I mean, we welcome the initiative. We welcome the initiative, and I think, and as you say, it's starting out. So I think it's just a question of figuring out how best to handle this issue of. Normally, a chapter would like to know for its budget for the year that it would have 3,000, but it wouldn't have. Now, it could have showing that they had done those expenses the prior year. Maybe I think that's a good idea. Thanks for the offer.
Yeah, maybe we can pull together a call with Ilda, Nancy, and some of the chapter reps who would be interested in that call. I think that would be productive, in fact.
I'll just say this is a change to all precedents, because previously, in all the times we've ever done money with administration, it has always been you get the money and then you have to account for it at the end of the year before they give you some more money. And so that's, and so you put it in your bank account and then you spend it across the year, and then you have your bank statement and you can do it. This is all back to front. You have to dig in your pocket, pay for things, and then hope that you're going to get the grant at the end of the year. It's like, it's not the way that these things have always worked, so,
that's why we moved the admin fund to the beginning of the year. So that's why we are now launching the admin fund for 2017 for this first semester of the year, to avoid that.
So
the chapter will have the money for the admin expenses that they need.
when are we? But we're already halfway through the year and we didn't see the money yet, as far as I know.
You have to apply again, and actually the deadline is June the 30th. I will show you the.
What, to apply to apply for 27? So the amount, but we applied in December 2016, and so we didn't see that money.
Okay, so I have a question there. So you applied and you didn't receive the money.
I'll tell you what, I'm not the treasurer. I'd have to ask our treasurer to confirm we received the money. But as far as that, I don't know. John?
I think the answer is let's have the conversation with Ilda, with the treasurers, and then we can clear this up. I think that's the best thing.
Yes, because actually the applications from 2006, sorry, the application from 2016 were wired last year, so we don't have information pending money to transfer from 2016.
So let the treasurers work it out.
John, I think that's a good course of action. I think, and I think the chapter feedback would certainly strengthen the program as well.
Well, I just want to say again that it's really welcome. It's really welcome to have
Susanna, you have your hand
up?
up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the communication surrounding the grant was pretty confusing. Although we seem to have managed to spend everything. I did actually ask Ilda, does the money actually have to be spent, or can we just allocate it to be spent? And my understanding was that we could just allocate it rather than it having to actually be spent. So there's obviously some confusion there about how this funding scheme is working. So maybe that needs to be cleared up.
Again,
Okay.
that would be a good conversation with Ilda.
Perfect. Actually, I will share with you the link to the program where we have like the specifics. And also here, if you want to apply, and this is very important before we have the meeting with Ilda, because I'm not sure if you are going to have time to apply before the deadline. And is that for 2017 funds, you will have time until June 30th to make the application.
Nancy, just to illustrate my point, right there on the screen, it says chapters must justify the use of 2006 funds before applying for 2017 funds. That doesn't say that you actually have to spend it, right? It says that you have to justify what you're going to spend it on.
Actually, the funds from 2016, as Jolie was saying, he spent some money from the chapter for the, I don't know, let's say like hosting or well, admin stuff. And it was money that was obtained from the chapter. So he can use the money from 2016 funds to replace that money that they spent in the chapter admin funds.
Yeah, that's clear, and that's exactly what we did. But I'm just saying that the way that's written is not clear. That's what I'm saying. That doesn't say that the money has to be spent, right? It just says you must justify the use of it, which means I can say, well, next year I'm going to spend this money, rather than actually spending it. So I just think it's the terminology that needs to be looked at.
I'm just seeing that we received the $3,000 payment on February 22nd.
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
We received our $3,000 on February 22nd in our bank account.
And those were for 2016?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that we're not exactly clear. You know, we thought that was money, that was our 2017 budget. And so now we're kind of confused as to you know, it's like, well, I'm beginning to get a clue, is that that's like 2016. So, you know, I'm not sure if we can produce $3,000 worth of receipts from 2016. So that means we correspondingly can only apply for less money for 2017, which is money we'll put forward in the way that things worked in 2018, you know.
Yes, now I understand. The problem is that when you apply for 2016, you put the budget for 2017.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will tell that to Hilda, so that maybe she can find a solution for the chapters that did that, because actually the idea was that the expenses for 2016
that we recoup them. Yeah, I think we're happy with a sort of a forward-looking way of going about things, rather than always trying to catch up.
Right.
Perfect. I will tell her, and actually I think Mark, that it would be good to have Hilda in this meeting.
Yeah, I made a note to to organize a meeting with Hilda, you, Nancy.
You know, perhaps I'm doing us out of some money now, because, you know, they'll say, okay, well, if that's 2017, forget about applying now for like more money for 2017. Do you see what I mean? You know, but what we'd be applying for now would be money for 2018. I mean, it's you know, John, what do you say about that?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I would say that you spent some money, and that you will certainly be able to use it in 2017. So I would say you should get that. But let's leave that to have a gritty conversation. We cannot solve it on this conversation, but the issue has been raised, which is important.
Perfect. And actually now I understand the problem, and I will tell Hilda what is exactly the problem that you're having.
Okay, thank you.
So Jolie, I'll support you getting both.
Excellent. Any other questions? Any other questions for Nancy? No. Well, thank you very much, Nancy. I will organize that call and try and do it much sooner rather than later, given that the deadline is coming up fast approaching. Let's put it that way.
Maybe I have an announcement. Just to remind you that we have still until June 30th for the 25th anniversary celebration notes. So chapters that are interested, they can apply for $1,500 to make a celebration note on during the intercommunity. So the chapters that are interested have to apply actually in this month before the deadline. The information is here, and I will copy it in the chat so that you will have access to it. I don't know if you knew about these other programs for the 25th anniversary. Oh, okay. Maybe I will explain you. Okay, so for the 25th anniversary, we will be celebrating during the intercommunity, and the idea is that we will do like a big party, virtual big party with all the chapters. So we are inviting the chapters to join us, and part of the celebration is to celebrate with your members. So the chapters that are interested, they can apply for $1,500 and do a celebration note with their members. Also, the chapters that are interested and apply for this grant, they will receive like a surprise box where they will receive like pins and marketing stuff from ISOC. So
So this would be in conjunction with Intercommunity, or?
Correct.
it is during the intercommunity that it's going to be in September 19th. So
It's a different intercommunity.
is during intercommunity, yes.
Yeah.
So the idea is that maybe you can put, I don't know, a video in and show to your members the intercommunity celebration and the different panels that we will have, and also celebrate with them that we are having our 25th anniversary. So if you want to apply, you just have to go here and hit in apply via Zoom grants and ask for the $1,500.
This is essentially to run a remote hub for Intercommunity.
Exactly. It is like a remote hub, but it is not interactive. So you will not have access to the main session of the intercommunity. It would be like an inactive hub. You will be just able to see what it is happening in the intercommunity, but you will not be able to interact with the other hubs.
This has always been a sort of irony of like the hub and Intercommunity, is that, you know, individuals at home can be involved in Intercommunity, and you go to a hub and you're cut off, you know, so it's a sort of paradox.
Well, for the I am not sure if you have the information about intercommunity, but this year we will have, I think it was like 11 interactive hubs, and those hubs are the ones that are going to be interacting in the main session, and then we will have the non-interactive hubs that are chapters that are interested, that they will just show what is happening during the main session.
Is that list of interactive hubs published?
Actually, I am not sure.
Nancy, I don't think it is. Jolly, I can tell you in North America, the main hub will be Los Angeles for a number of reasons that will become clear as we move on a bit.
Certainly aren't now.
What's that? Oh, well, it has to do with the relaunch of the Internet Hall of Fame and
Okay.
And visiting those sites where the first iterations of the internet were live. A second hub right now, what's being discussed is actually Boston, because, you know, connectivity points and all of that. I would prefer to see it in New York, but let's have a discussion about that offline.
The good thing is you're not doing it in Washington.
Well, John, we'll still look to you for a lot of, I don't
But
know.
we can just grab the $1,500 and party. You guys can do all the work. It's fine.
Exactly.
It's a party. No, I'm
that they
actually
were
serious.
selected according to the time zone, because we have to follow and schedule, and I think that the coordinators were thinking on having different time zones so that we can follow the activity during a whole day for 24 hours. So that's probably one of the facts that were considered to find a interactive hub.
Well, I think the DC chapter will certainly plan on having a party connected to a node.
And parties are nice.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, the viewing will be the Internet Hall of Fame kind of activity, will it?
And
Well, actually, what you will see is the intercommunity, which the main topic is going to be the future internet. So we will have panels from all around the world about the topic.
I understand.
yeah, the Internet Futures Project, which will be launching that week.
Yeah, we saw Sally talk about that at Eurodic or whatever.
Yeah. Excellent project.
Agreed.
Okay, so that was for the 25th anniversary, and the last reminder, because I don't want to take you more time, is the chapterthon that Mark was telling me to give you some information. Well, for today we already closed the inscriptions, but for chapters that are still interested of being part of the chapterthon, if you tell me that you want to be part, I can subscribe you to the marathon. The chapterthon is actually a marathon between chapters where chapters will compete between them, having different projects.
You're talking the hackathon, right?
No, this is the chapterthon.
The chapterthon, yeah.
Yes, and this
Okay.
year is for digital schools. So if some of your chapters are not still subscribed to the marathon, you can just tell me and I can add you to the list.
We're subscribed, but it's down to our members to come up with projects. And at the moment, I think our members are going to need a good deal more encouragement to come up with something.
Likewise. I'm not
Okay.
even sure we're signed up.
Actually, if you do not receive projects from your members, you can also send your own projects. So there's no problem if you want to participate with your own projects from the board. It all depends on you. Okay, so that's from my side. I don't know if you have any questions or something. I will talk to Il about the situation with the grant, and I hope we can get an answer soon, since the application deadline is soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now we've come to the full hour that we had scheduled for the call. We've covered almost everything on the agenda. What we've missed were, Charlie, did we discuss the ISOC NY's nascent effort to fund an ED position using organizational members?
Because Shuli isn't here, I feel I guess we can postpone that to the next time, because it's, really it's her baby.
Okay. And I also see chapter joint activities and IGF USA event, and both of those were David Vior's additions, and he's not on the call. So
I think that we should, we should have another call, Mark. I think that we've been leaving it too long between calls.
Yeah.
We should keep talking.
I was going to suggest that perhaps we have a call next week, earlier in the week rather than later, to have Ilda on the call, Nancy, and to talk about those issues that David had brought up.
Yeah, okay. Let's make sure that David's going to be on.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Works for me too.
What do you think about resuming bi-weekly calls? And does Wednesday work for everyone? Wednesday, 3:30.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm doing the disabled special needs chapter call at 1 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Jolly, would you be interested in talking about that to the group on the call next week?
Sure.
I had a good talk with Judith when I was in Washington last week. So, and there's definitely sort of making developments on captioning methods, and technical advances of new tools that we're finding. I need to recruit more sort of guests for that. And the good news is actually I just got made an admin on the AMS for the disabled and special needs chapter. So now I'm able, for this week's meeting, I'll be able to do an email to every member of the chapter that's enrolled, and hopefully get a few more people to show up. Perfect. And if you're looking for guest speakers, let me know, because we could pull some people.
Well, this is an ongoing thing. I'm doing it every week. So, and what I have to pull together is, I've been paying the captioning out of ISOC and Y funds, right. And it's I'm getting a discount, so it's costing me $90 a week. So I'm going to have to. I was going to put in for a small Beyond the Net grant for that.
Yeah, I spoke with Judith about that, and when she's back from Buenos Aires, I think the three of us should have a call.
Yeah. Okay.
To look at more sustainable solutions and.
I mean, it wouldn't be much to caption everything that I webcast practically. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's on our live stream. That now that I'm kind of figuring out ways to use my equipment that I have to drop in captions on top.
Right. Perfect.
Okay.
Excellent. So with that, we've reached the full hour, but I'll set up a call for 3:30 Eastern time on Wednesday next week, and then every 2 weeks thereafter. Does that sound perfect?
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. And if you have anything to add to the call, please let me know. And if you would like to participate in the project for the chapter toolkit with Chris Tassett, let me know as well.
Mark, Lyndon's saying on the chat that Wednesday at 3 is no good for him. I don't know whether that means this Wednesday or every Wednesday. So just so you're aware.
Yeah, Wednesdays don't work for me at all. Sorry.
Okay. Do Tuesdays work for you, Lyndon?
Yes, Tuesdays would be better.
I'll send an email out to the group. I know Shuli wasn't able to make it today. David wasn't, but I don't know if that was because of a regular scheduling conflict that they have, or if it's I think I'll do a doodle poll. Keep in mind that later in the day,
that would be best.
The Eastern time, sort of 3 to 4 o'clock, 4:30, works best for our West Coast friends. It hits their lunch hour.
That's good for us, yeah.
Yes, that's good for us.
Yeah, I'm often doing events later in the day, so that's about my cutoff time. Is no later than 4:30 on a day.
Okay, excellent. Good to know. I'll put out a doodle poll. And please fill it out as soon as you get it. That way we can schedule it right away and have maximum participation. Anyway, thank you, everybody. It was good to see everybody. And I'll talk to you in a week.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.